Hey everyone, Joe here. Welcome back to my author's channel on YouTube. I thought this would be the perfect setting to kick off this new video, which is about the 14 steps of writing a book. Now, really what that is for me is sort of the 14 key things that I learned in the process of writing my first novel, which is part of a trilogy of novels, dark fantasy trilogy called Rivendell. I feel like I can bring maybe something a little bit unique to the sort of writer's how-to videos. So I've assembled these 14 key ideas that sort of help me stay the course. For me, these are hard-won truths. Hard-won because I really had to struggle in bringing that first novel together, and I'm hoping that it will help other writers who are just starting out, people who are considering writing their first novel, and maybe I can help them avoid some of the roadblocks I ran into. So I do have to kind of throw out a disclaimer here in that I have not yet finished my first novel. It's I'm very close to completion, but it hasn't been published yet. Now, I'm also in the process of writing the other two novels sort of at the same time, so that there won't be any inconsistencies in the three. So it's sort of a much larger work than just a single novel. But you might be asking yourself, why should I watch a how-to video from a guy who hasn't yet published his first work of fiction? Well, this is sort of my answer to that. You can go to the bookstore, and there are a ton of books on how to write a novel. There are TED Talks, there are YouTube videos, there's a plethora of venues which you can hear accomplished writers who may have written dozens of books talk about the process of writing from their perspective. But I feel like I bring a unique perspective in this particular video, in this sort of arena of how-to videos, in that I'm still in the thick of it. I'm still feeling it, what it's like to struggle through that first novel. And so maybe it will be helpful in a way that perhaps a video or a book from an existing author who sort of maybe has lost touch with those feelings of that first experience might not have. So if you are kind of still with me on this, what I'd like you to do is get your favorite beverage, sit back in your most comfortable chair, and I'll share with you the things that I have learned in the process of making this first novel, writing this first novel, and hopefully it will be something that's a benefit to you. If you get to the end of the video and you like what you heard, or you didn't like what you heard, make comments in the comment section below down here, and let me know what you think. So if you're ready to begin, sit back and let's go ahead and get started. The 14 steps to writing a book. A list of the things I've learned writing my first novel. Before I begin, I thought I would go ahead and run through the 14 items that I'm going to be talking about today, just to give you a quick preview. Let's go ahead and bring that in. and I'm just going to run through it. 1, why write a book? 2, catching the concept. 3, believe in yourself. 4, gather your tools and define your space. 5, commit to the process. 6, Google like a ninja. 7, capture the ideas. 8, mining for gold. 9, discover the story. 10, embrace the ugly. 11, learn to drop trowel. 12, ignore the monster. 13, don't give up. And last but not least, number 14, branding like a Bronco. All right, now that's just a quick list. Let's go ahead and get started and we'll jump right in.
There and back again. A Hobbit's Tale by Bilbo Baggins. Now, where to begin? Ah, yes.
The first item on my list is to ask yourself, why do I want to write a book? You know, you've just sat down and you have at your desk and you have a blank sheet of paper, or you're sitting at your computer screen and you have to fill it with words. And you know, sometimes you can just start that way and get started, but it would have really helped me if I had had a clear intention in my mind before I started. So you might want to ask yourself, I mean, are you wanting to become a writer so that you can work independently, you know, work out of your home? Is it because you want to make money? Is it because you want to be famous? Is it because you have an idea that's burning in your brain and you need to get it down on paper? You know, an exciting idea for a novel? Or is it just something that you have to write out of your system? You know, it's just something inside of you that you have to write. Those are really important questions to ask, I think, in the very beginning, because you know, you have a very arduous task ahead, and it's good to set your intention right in the beginning. You know, why am I doing this? What is the purpose of this? You know, what am I hoping to get out of it? You know, that was not something I did in the beginning. I just sort of started writing things that were coming to me, and you know, and that's a fine way to start too. But I sort of wish I had really sat down and thought it through about what I intended to do and why I was doing it. I think it would have made the process, I think, go much faster. There's really no right or wrong answer. Whatever is your reason, that's the main thing, is that you know what your reasoning, you know, what your reasons are. Because, you know, I think you need to have a driving force to get through the difficult parts of writing a novel, because especially if it's a larger novel, it is going to be difficult, and you are going to need that fortitude to get you through it. And sometimes, and setting your intention in the beginning, I think, can help you do that. For me, there were 3 things that sort of led me to the idea of writing a novel. The first was that I wanted to work out of my home. I've always been intrigued by the idea of being a writer and the profession of writing. I like the sort of the solitary life of a writer, and at this stage of my life, it was just seemed like the right thing for me to tackle, and I had the time to do it. The second thing that motivated me was the idea of having complete control over something that I was creating for myself. For the last 30 odd years, I have been a graphic designer, creative director, art director, and was always using my talent to help promote other people's concept and ideas. And I really wanted to tackle creating something of my own that would be really for me only. The third reason is a little bit more difficult to talk about, and I'll just title it sort of working through my demons. I had experienced in my early to mid 40s some traumatic events that I really needed to figure out a way to work through, and writing became a way to do that. So what I actually did initially is I was going to write a more autobiographical account of those things that had happened to me, and then I decided that that was not really working. So I decided to create a fictional world that would allow me to kind of work through those things through the characters I was creating and the things that they were going through. And I really put my characters through some dramatic events. So, that I wouldn't say that was the primary force behind writing a novel, but it definitely played an important part, and acknowledging that is important. For each person, I think, is going to be something different that draws you to wanting to write. But I think it's very important for a new writer to figure out what it is that's driving them or bringing them to this, and then acknowledging it, and then setting your intention based on having figured that out or thought through it. Because there are going to be sunny days when you're writing, when the words just flow like from a spring, and other days when it's going to be like 3 a.m. 3 a.m. days, I call them, when all your doubts come to the surface. You just think, what am I doing? Why have I tried to attempt this? I'm no good. I can't do this. It's too difficult. And you will need to have really set your intention so that when those more difficult times come, you can work through them and keep going, keep writing. So that's why I feel like it's very important to take the time in the very beginning to set your intention, figure out why you're doing this, and then that will help sustain you through the more difficult times. So that is why I asked why as my very first thing that I learned in writing a novel, is to ask that question so that you can have a very clear answer in your mind when that question comes up. And it will. Many times in writing, I ask myself, in the writing of this first novel, why am I doing this? And I had an answer. So, and it was really a collection of answers, but I think you need to have that in order to get to the other side. Number 2 is catching the concept. Every good novel needs to have a big idea, an overarching theme that runs from the beginning through to the end, tying the characters and the plot together. Sometimes catching that big idea can be a lot like fishing, because you bait your hook, you cast out into the waters, and you wait for that big idea to hit you. And sometimes it jumps right in the boat with you, and you're ready to go, and you can start writing immediately with that big idea in mind. Other times it may come more slowly through the writing, revealing itself as you lay down the characters and the plot, and the story becomes more clear to you. That overarching concept comes together, and you can see how it ties everything together in your novel or your larger story. I myself began writing in the latter way. I had ideas of scenes that I wanted to write about. And as I wrote them, the characters became more developed, and the story, the overarching story, was more developed, and I could start to see the beginning and the end. And at that point, I think I realized it needed to be 3 books and not just one, that to tell that entire story that I had in mind. But the overall idea, the concept, came to me through that writing. So for everybody, it's going to be different. Sometimes it may come that way. Sometimes it may come, like a flash of lightning. You have this big concept story idea and you're ready to sit down and write. And other times, like me, it'll come through the writing itself. But either way, every good book, every novel worth its salt needs to have that big idea. I thought I would end this particular step with reading a quote from Norman MacLean's "A river runs through it" and other stories. Since I used that clip from the movie in the beginning, I thought it would be a nice quote because I think it really captures what I'm trying to say in this step. So here we go. Eventually, all things merge into one, and a river runs through it. The river was cut by the world's great flood and runs over rocks from the basement of time. On some of the rocks are timeless raindrops. Under the rocks are the words, and some of the words are theirs. I am haunted by waters.
This task was appointed to you, and if you do not find a way, no one will. Then I know what I must do. It's just, I'm afraid to do it. Even the smallest person can change the course of the future.
Number 3, believe in yourself. This is probably one of the most important things that I think I can share in this video, and that is that as a writer, you need to believe in your project, in your idea, and the fact that you can write this. It's especially important for new writers. Once you have set your intention, you know why you're doing it, you have your big idea. The third component is to believe in yourself, because you're going to need that belief to get you to the end of the project. In order to write your opus, you need to tell yourself that you can do it. You need to tell yourself that you're a writer. You need to tell other people that you're a writer, and you need to visualize the completion of the book. That will be a major help in getting to that over some of the more difficult aspects of writing a novel. I personally had a hard time with this one. Even now, I struggle with the idea that I'm talented enough to write a novel that other people will be interested in reading. I think it helps to work on your craft, assemble the proper tools that you need, and that will help you feel more accomplished. I have become more confident as I've gone through the process of writing the book. As the outlines of it begin to become more clear through the writing, then it was a matter of going back in and filling in the holes, working on the character development, and sort of bringing the whole thing together by rewriting some of the weaker passages. I still have doubts, and I suppose I will until I have reached the point where I've actually been published. And one of the things that helped me, keep the faith and keep working was to create the dust jacket for the book. It was a way to help me kind of visualize the fact that it was going to actually be a book one day. And I think I've shown this to you in other videos, but this was the dust jacket that I created, which I actually just put over another book. But it being able to hold it in my hands, it was a very key factor in keeping me going and getting through the harder parts of creating this novel, which a lot of times come at the end when you're really struggling with the parts you're having trouble with. So this worked for me. You may have other things that may help you, but I just wanted to share one of the things that I have done that helped me believe in myself and believe that I can accomplish this project. You know, it's important for you to believe in yourself, because no one else is going to believe in your project, your novel, with as much zeal and as you will. No one is going to really give you that energy to get it done. And you know, they may say they like it. They may, if they read parts of it, they may say it's it has potential. But it's really you that has to take it over the finish line. So anyway, I think it's really important that when you set out to write a novel, that you believe in yourself. And so I think, that's why you need to believe that, even the smallest person can change the course of the future, especially your own. I've been using my tools to help me define my space out here at the campsite. I have been getting ready to make a fire, and I'll show you real quickly. I've assembled my tools here for the fire to help me make my fire today. But one of the things I've been using my tools for is to create a fire area where I can store my wood and keep it dry. Take a peek there. I got a space for my small pieces, medium, and larger pieces. And I created it in such a way so that it'll be off the ground. And that's probably the perfect way to illustrate using your tools and defining your space. Well, I got my coffee brewed, and I have it here in my kuksa, and it's delicious. Love that. All right, so what do you need to write a novel? Well, some of the important things that you'll need are the tools for writing that novel. Most of you are probably going to choose an electronic device of some sort, though others may choose to write in longhand with pencil and notepad. Whatever works for you, just make sure that you have those tools available when you're ready to sit down and write. If you take a digital route, you're going to have to choose a device, whether it's a laptop, a computer, a desktop computer, or a tablet, whatever available device that you have that you're ready to input your text and your words and your thoughts to get started on your novel. Just make sure they're available. You may also want to look into apps that are available, such as Grammarly, or websites such as dictionary.com and thesaurus.com that can help in the process. Those are invaluable tools for me. You may also want to have a printer so that you can print out pieces or chapters of your work and use it for editing, which means you'll probably want to have markers, pencils, pens, notes for sketching ideas out or taking notes. And of course, post-it notes are also very helpful. If you've printed out your chapters, you can make notes about things you want to change and then sit down with it at the computer or whatever is your input device. Whatever works for you, it's really important to have your tools available so that when the muse hits you, you're ready to go. One of the other things, of course, that takes us to the second part of this, number 4, is defining your space. whether that's going to be an office space or a room you can devote, whether it's just a folding table, whether it's a space outside, or whether you actually go to a coffee shop or a restaurant and sit down and write. It's going to be different for every person depending on what their means are, what's available. But the point is no matter where you are, from Starbucks to a deluxe room you've set up in your home, you can write no matter where you are. If you're on vacation, write. If you're on if you're out for dinner, you can write. If you're in your car and you're not driving, you can write. The point is whatever space is available, you can write. So take advantage of the time that you have to do so, and whatever space you have, make it as comfortable and as quiet as possible, so that it works for you and helps you get that novel complete. One of the things that was helpful to me when I first started writing was I wrote outside in our backyard. We had a deck at that house we had a deck with a nice big table, and I could spread out, and the sounds of the birds and the outdoors really inspired me to write. And of course, when it got colder, I had to move inside. But for those first couple of weeks and months that I was writing, that was the place that inspired me the most. But the point is to gather your tools, designate your space, and then so you won't have to worry about acquiring the space or gathering your tools when you're ready to write. Have them available and ready to go when that urge to write takes you. Number 5, commit to the process. Once you resolve to write your book, you've got your big idea, you've gathered your tools, you're ready to define your process and then commit to it. Writing a book can often be a gargantuan challenge you feel like you have to overcome, but defining your process will definitely make that easier. Some of you will begin writing at the crack of dawn. Others will put on a pot of coffee at 11 p.m. and begin a long night of creative writing. Others may find themselves writing sporadically throughout the day. Life goes on while you're writing your book or not, whether you're writing a book or not. So you're probably going to need to juggle your job, your family, your kids, other obligations that you may have. But if you're going to write a book, you must find the time to sit down and consistently write and stick to it. You may need to try out several different times. Try in the morning, in the evening, but whatever works for you. Once you've determined when you're going to write, you need to make the commitment to sit down at that time and every day, if possible, and stick to it. Probably the most popular way to commit to a process in a time frame is to put it down in your calendar, whether it's on your phone or on some other device that you have. If you can lay it in electronically, maybe even have a timer that goes off at that time at the beginning and the end, it'll help you stick to it. Even if you're writing it on your cat calendar, which you have in the kitchen, or whatever kind of calendar you might have, and it's just jotting down a note of those times and marking it in on your calendar. Whatever it takes, whatever works best for you, define it, use a calendar of some kind or some other way, post-it notes, whatever it works for you to define it and remind yourself of it every day so that you'll stick to it and do it. Sometimes the most difficult part is just getting started. But once you do it consistently, over time, it'll almost feel like you're missing something if you're not doing it, if you're not sitting down and doing that writing. So just getting into the routine can sometimes be the hardest part. But if you can get yourself, if you can define that process, get in that routine, it'll make writing much easier. For me, it was writing in the morning. That's when I get most of my work done, usually before noon. However, I am always open to writing whenever a big idea comes, or even a small idea. You know, if I feel like I want to capture it, I'll go right there and write it if I can. To overcome the challenge, well, you have to commit to the process, and that will help you take on this big project of writing a book. At least it helped me. Number 6, Google like a ninja. This is about doing your research. It's really an important step in almost any form of fiction or writing of any kind, really, but it's especially important in the creation of a novel. You must know your subject matter in order to speak about it with authority. From my perspective, it's one of the key components to good fiction is believability. Even though fantastical things may be occurring within the context of your story and your plot to your characters, the world itself must be anchored in reality. If the reader doesn't buy into the authenticity of your story, then they won't care about what happens to your characters. And for me, that's really a key component. You know, searching the internet is not the only way to gather data and information about your subject matter. You know, there is the old way of doing it, which is actually to go to locations and go and talk to people who are in specific professions, or if you're going to a location, go and actually immerse yourself in that place. For me, one of my key locations within Rivendoa, Wings of Shadow, is Hollywood Cemetery. It's an old world cemetery, rolling hills and trees, and it's a very beautiful location. But I had to go ahead and go there to really soak up the ambiance of the space, to see what the headstones looked like, to go and stand on the bluff and look across at the river where one of the scenes takes place, to put my hands on the cold stone, to watch other people walking through the graveyard, to feel the atmosphere of the place, which had a very quiet and serene feeling to it, which hopefully has imbued my writing about that location with those things. So that's a really important, but it can be any location, a police station, a hospital, a church, whatever you happen to be writing about. It really helps to go to one of those locations. If you can't, there is always Street View on Google, and you can look at a place if you want to get a feeling for it if you can't get to that location, because it may not be near you, or you may be looking at it because it's a similar location to what you're going to be writing about, which may be totally fictional. For me, you know, the Googling and research and going to locations, that's no problem for me, because I actually enjoy that work. I enjoy gathering that data. You know, I have a database that I keep of all the links to information, photos. I keep a huge selection of things that I can kind of go back and look at while I'm writing about the specific things that I'm talking about in the novel. And it's very, very helpful to me, and I can refer to it at any time by going into that collection of images and text and reviewing it when I need to, especially in the editing phase. The photos are really good for the kind of creative writing phase, but looking back at some of the more research text information is helpful in the editing phase. But the only downside to doing a lot of research is there's going to be a tendency to want to put all of it into your story. You know, all the cool and neat and fun things that you find out about your subject matter, you really want to fit them all in. And really the only purpose that research has is to support the story. It must support the story. If you start filling a lot of content in that it doesn't really that doesn't propel the story forward, then it just becomes useless reading, and your reader is just going to become bored by a lot of information they don't need to get to the story, to get to the meat of the story. Having that information is something that will imbue your story with believability, and that's its main purpose. Number 7, capture the idea. This is about grabbing hold of those ideas when they come, like the precious creatures that they are. You want to capture it in your hands and keep it. So when an idea comes, you want to be ready for it. This is probably one of the most important strategies to incorporate into your writing process. New ideas may come at any time. They may come while you're writing, but likely as not, they're going to come at different times. They're going to come while you're in the shower, while you're out working in the yard, you're on a walk with your dogs, you are eating in a restaurant. Lots of times they come while you're asleep and you wake up with that idea in the middle of the night. The important thing is to record it as quickly as possible, because if you don't, it's going to fade. And if you don't get it down within a certain amount of time, by the next day at least, it will just disappear altogether. This has happened to me a couple of times on some really important things, and I waited, and then instead of getting it down as quickly as I possibly could in some form, it just goes, and then you don't even remember that you had the idea. It took me a while to figure that out. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night with a complete scene in my head, and if I didn't write some notes about it or think about it, it would just fragment. And by the time I tried to write about it the next day, it was just scattered images that really, didn't make a lot of sense. So really trying to get the point down as quickly as you can is important. And these were a couple of strategies I kind of worked through to do that. Everybody has a cell phone, and on your cell phone you have a recorder. So if you have an idea, sort of in shorthand, just talk into it, and just in a few quick words say what it is that the scene is about. And then when you listen to it later, it'll bring it back enough of a memory of what the idea is that you can then sit down and flesh it out by writing it out. And this works really in many ways. You can also record by just jotting down on a notepad. Keep a notepad by your bed, or in the bathroom, or wherever you happen to be. Always have one handy that you can write down and jot down notes, and just a shorthand to give you an idea of what you were talking about, what you were thinking about. But probably the most important thing to do when you get the idea is right in the moment that you get it. If you can't get access to write it down, think through it, and just think through it 3 or 4 times and commit it to memory as much as you can. That in itself will take you a long way towards remembering it when you sit down to write, because then it'll be in your mind. You'll have been thinking about it. Usually it'll catch hold of you if you think about it clearly. It's kind of like a dream. When you wake up and you've had a dream, if you sit and think about it, you remember it later. If you don't think about it, it's just gone. You knew that there was some kind of dream, but you sort of remember, but you can't really remember what it was about. Ideas can come in the same way, and it's very possible they come from the same place, wherever that is. But we'll save that for another video. The point is, when ideas come, you have to be ready to receive them.
ever they delve deeper down into the dark. And that is where they found it. The heart of the mountain.
Number 8, mining for gold. This particular step is about kind of defining what your approach to writing is. You will likely figure this out as you go, but once you determine what it is, it's good to kind of stick with it and figure out what's best for you in terms of writing. So you want to ask yourself, do you grab a shovel, crawl down a hole, and start digging if you're looking for gold? Or do you build a structure like a mine shaft or a mine in order to, before you start going down to look for the gold? Some writers sit down and start writing. They slowly build their story one scene at a time, letting it unfold until all the pieces fit together like a puzzle. I call these the diggers because they sort of jump right in the hole and start digging, gathering up nuggets of gold until they hit the mother lode. Other writers like to create a structured outline before they begin, in the way that an architect designs a building before even the first brick is laid. I like to call these writers miners because they like to build the mine shaft before they go down to look for the gold. New writers may want to try both and see kind of which works best for them. It might be a combination of the two. And it also may vary from project to project or novel to novel once you move on to that second novel. Personally, I'm a digger. I like to just sit down and write and see where the story takes me. I wrote the lion's share of Rivendell, Wings of Shadow in that way. I sort of built on it one scene at a time, and then I used the outline almost as a finishing technique to kind of tie it all together and tighten it up. So, you really want to kind of figure out, are you a digger for gold, or are you a miner for gold? In terms of those two things, it's just about defining your approach and then honing it, so you can quickly get to the good stuff in developing your novel. Number 9, discover the story. This particular step sort of delves into the idea of where does creativity come from? How do you tap into that place where the wonderful story comes from? There's a saying about writing that goes something like this: don't try and find the story, let the story find you. In my experience, this is exactly how it works. You can't force narrative ideas. You sort of have to be patient and let them come to you. In other words, you have to walk in the cornfield and listen for the voices. Now, this doesn't mean that you stop writing. In order to complete a novel, you need to write every day or as often as you possibly can. Because sometimes the best ideas come through the writing itself. You'll be writing one thing and it just builds, like bricks. Layers of ideas will start to come to you as you're writing about character development or plot, or overarching theme about what your story is about. And you really want to try and tap into that whenever it comes to you. This ties into the age-old question, which is, what is the source of creativity? That's a larger question that I would like to save for another video where I can really get into that in depth. We can get a discussion going on how that works for you, and I can share how it works for me. But the point of this particular step is to try and be an open door and let the mystery in. I can't say it any other way, but just make yourself an open book and try to let it in. Number 10, embrace the ugly. What does embrace the ugly mean exactly? It means sitting down at your computer or wherever you're writing and just letting it pour out of you without considering grammar, punctuation, or spelling. Don't try to edit it this phase. Just let it be a stream of consciousness that flows from your mind to your hands to the page. It's probably going to be ugly writing, but that's okay. The main thing is just to get the words out. If you try to write perfect prose at this stage, you're never going to reach the finish line. You have to vomit up the words, let it spatter across the page, and just enjoy the beautiful mess. Later, you can edit into something more structured and palatable for a reader. At this stage, just get it out. This was a key idea for me to embrace. It helped me get the words down on paper without thinking about it too much, which leads to another advantage. If you don't have your internal editor on, it sort of opens the door to that creative place where some very interesting ideas may come from. When you read it afterwards, you may find that it was nothing like you intended, and you've been taken down a totally different avenue of story. You may end up tossing it out completely, or you may find that it's one of the best ideas you've had. So I guess what I'm saying is you just need to open the door to the telepod and let whatever flies out at you embrace it. Number 11, learn to drop trowel. You're probably thinking I've gone too far with this step, but I'm not talking about exposing yourself literally, but rather figuratively. Some of the best writing deals with issues that make us uncomfortable, especially in the genre of horror. It's one of the reasons people love horror, because it allows them to explore their own fears through story or through character. However, in this case, I'm talking about something a little bit deeper than fear. Every person has a unique story to tell. And those of us who choose to share those stories through writing must tell the truth, but wrapped in fiction. The best stories that have ever been written that go back to ancient myth are stories that tell the truth about life. Your characters may be fictional, the places they inhabit may be imaginary. In fact, the very world upon which they live and roam may be completely fabricated. But in reality, the words you write are nothing more than a vehicle to share what you believe to be the truth about your own world. Getting to the truth means exposing yourself. You might be in the middle of writing something and think, oh my God, what if my mother read this, or my father, or worse yet, my children? But you have to get over that. You have to let go of the fears and record the things that you know in life to be true. Otherwise, your readers will sense deception, and worse yet, they may even be bored about what you're writing because it doesn't have that bite to it. Nuggets of reality, no matter how embarrassing to us or strange, are objects of believability that make your story ring true. And I'm not saying that everything that you write will come from real experience, but there has to be a part of you that knows that what you're writing is true, because it will come through the writing to the reader. Most of your readers will feel the truth in your words and believe in what you're writing if you come from that place. At least that's how it works for me. So drop your trousers or your skirt and reveal the truth that you know right from your reality. Ooh. Number 12, ignore the monster. There's no hiding from the monster. Eventually he will come. Usually around 3 a.m. in the morning when all the world's fears crowd in around you. He'll come from under the bed, from out of the closet, or just from out of your mind. He will come grinning like a ghoul, but don't listen, he's a liar. The monster will tell you you can't write, that you were a fool to begin, and that you'll never finish it, that writing a book is just too hard and it can't be done. Don't listen, keep writing. Eventually the monster will shut up and leave you alone. Of course, the monster is only ourselves. It's the fears and doubts we have about ourselves bubbling to the surface, about your self-worth and your ability as a writer. Don't let the monster get its teeth into you, or he will never let go and you will never finish your work. The only answer is to keep writing. Otherwise, the monster will eat your story alive. So just hang in there and keep writing. That's the answer. Now, this one, of course, brings me to number 13.
Don't you let go. Don't let go. Breathe.
Okay, number 13, don't give up. Don't you dare let go. I love that scene from the movie. If you've gotten this far, don't quit. Don't quit and don't quit. That's the main thing I can tell you at this point. You can reshape, you can reshuffle, you can edit like a mad person, but don't give up until it's done. Even if you think it's not going to be the book that you hoped for. At this point, don't get mired in the middle. This does not necessarily mean the middle of your story. It may just be the middle of writing the novel, but you know, just hang in there and don't give up. However, the middle of a 3-act structure is often notoriously the most difficult to get through. The beginning introduces the major characters and defines the world and sets up the coming conflict. The ending is a resounding crescendo, the big payoff, the final resolution. The middle must carry you to the ending, and if the middle is weak, the ending will not have the impact that you hope for. A good ending means a good middle. You can deepen your main character. You can enhance the side characters. You can get them all into more trouble. The more trouble, the better. And then you can begin to lay in plot twists that will have a big payoff at the end. I know it's easier said than done, but to be honest, I'm still struggling through this part myself. When I reached this point, I decided to go ahead and do my outline, listing each scene from beginning to end, and then just going back in and filling in the holes. It's definitely not a perfect approach, but it works for me. Now this brings me to my final point.
What is it?
It's a horse they found wandering about in no man's land.
What kind of an horse?
A miraculous kind of an horse, be my guess.
Number 14, branding like a Bronco. As your book nears completion, you should begin the process of branding your novel. And if you're a new writer, you also want to brand yourself. You'll want to decide on a pen name and prepare to put out your novel out into the world even before you've completed it. Social media is an important tool for new writers, and I have created this author's channel not only as a way to brand my novel Rivendoa, but also to brand myself as a new writer. By sharing my story on this channel, I'm hoping to bring people around to wanting to read my work. So I've created a YouTube channel, I have a Facebook page, a Twitter account, and an Instagram account. And I think that's a good combination for me, though you may want to swap out some different social media for yourself, whatever works best for you. In addition, I am going to create a web page where I can post announcements and have a blog for blog posting, and also to sell merchandise about Rivendoa and hopefully about me if people are reach the point where they're interested. This sets me up for either self-publishing or going the traditional route to a publisher. There are pros and cons to both, and I haven't quite yet decided which direction I'm going to go in. It's very likely I'll do both. I may try to send my work to a publisher first. If I get no response, then I'll definitely take the self-publishing route, because sometimes you can get noticed in that way also. One of the things that even if you do get, I wanted to say, is that even if you do get a publisher, they will expect you in this day and age to have some kind of social media presence, some kind of following. So I'm starting to build that, and doing these videos is a way to do that for me. In addition to creating your brand, you might want to join a writers group, an online forum where you can share ideas and feedback with other writers, and get information on which direction you want to take in terms of publishing or self-publishing, and I think that's an important step, which I personally have not taken yet. I tend to be more of a solitary person. but hopefully I can chronicle that next step here in these YouTube videos, can help others, and maybe your feedback will also help me. I spent the majority of my working life as a graphic designer. So the branding aspect of promoting a book comes fairly easy to me. I plan to create an in-depth video, and you can tell me in the comment section below if that's something you feel might be helpful, about how to create a logo, create a book cover, create photos and graphics for your social media. And if you feel like that is something that might be helpful to you, because there are lots of tools out there that are available for novices and for people who are more experienced. And if you just don't want to deal with it at all, I can give some suggestions on, how to approach a graphic designer and what to bring them and how to get the most out of your money. All right. So you've ridden through the fire and the war-torn landscape of writing your own novel. You should be proud of the work that you've done, and you should be ready to share that with the world. So if you are going to begin branding, kind of keep that in mind. Well, in closing, I think I just want to say I hope my 14 steps to how to write a novel was informative and was helpful. I'm going to try to do more of these kind of videos, so give me some feedback in the comments section. Subscribe if you want, and give me a like to kind of reinforce that this was helpful, and maybe I'll do more of these kind of videos. So anyway, come back in and check back in a little while, and I'll have a new video up probably in about a week.